it's got a more flavorful like turkey taste to it.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
got a little bit of a like heat to it. Not anything crazy, but it's like it's a little snap to help perk you up.
yeah. That's cool.
That's pretty good.
Sometimes you need that spice. It does kind of wake
Yeah.
you up. And I usually have jerky for like hikes and stuff. That I try to save that stuff. I'm like, all right, I need it for this hike, so I
Yeah,
gotta save it.
I love
I'm trying
jerky,
to
but
up my like morning snack routine. So I do like a protein shake, a jerky stick, or I might do like a banana and an
That's a
apple.
good move
that's a
too.
good snack. Yeah.
Especially like in the morning. I've been doing the protein shakes in the morning, like, and
What
that's
protein
been a
shakes do you
game
do?
changer.
Because we do the Fairlife ones.
Oh, I do like a bullet. So I just like throw protein powder and
Ah,
a
okay.
banana and like frozen fruit in there.
That's sick.
Yeah. Oh,
I
That's a
thought
good
about
idea.
doing that, but
I-
I don't have time in the morning because I wake up so late.
yeah, I literally have time just to do that.
Yeah.
But it's so worth it because then I feel like I have a full meal and I have like right in the morning.
Enough energy to last for
Yeah.
half the day.
Yeah, exactly. Because I,
Yeah.
I need multiple meals. I eat like 5 meals a day, so like I need to keep myself fed. Yeah, but well, I guess we're live. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Backyard's finest, bringing you the finest of Batman, Superman, and whatever else in pop culture. I am your host as today. I'm with Tony and Jerry. Thank you guys for being here.
Hello.
As always, sorry it's been a little bit. My intro is a little rusty, but that's okay. Show must go on. So this is a part of the podcast where we talk about BSBS or news going on with like the movie industry, or basically anything we want to talk about at this point, like any shows or pieces of media that we intake. So the only thing I'm going to say, my only BSBS is that it seems like Snow White is bombing. That's kind of like all I kind of gathered. It looks really bad.
Yeah, I've seen that,
Yeah.
I just see
and I
people
was
shitting
very
on it.
confused. I'm like, how is it already bombing?
Yeah.
I
The other
was,
That
Disney
movie had
movies
bad
didn't
press.
get hit with
I was
this,
very
so
Yeah.
I'm wondering how.
That movie just got bad press like from the beginning, so like I wasn't expecting it to do well, but it's just kind of funny how everyone's shitting on it right now.
I saw they made Dopey talk.
Oh, really? He talks?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
like
that's
the one
cool.
thing that I saw about the movie that people
I-
were like, "What the hell?"
I honestly, I don't even think I ever seen the full movie like of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and like I seen like bits of it, but I never seen it like all the way through, like the original one.
I
That's
think
some
I
shit
think
that they would
I
play.
still have the VHS for that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's like the first Disney feature film, so it's kind of like
Mhm.
a touchstone in history just for that, it's the first animated feature film like ever.
Yeah. I hate that it's not doing good because I would figure Snow White would be pretty well received, especially because of how well Maleficent did, years ago.
Yeah, well, I heard this was really bad. I feel like Maleficent's probably better. I don't
Oh,
want to see
Maleficent
it.
was a fantastic movie. I
Yeah.
watched it again on lunch like 2 weeks ago. I was like, man, this movie's
Cool.
still great.
I would definitely watch it. I'm actually curious to see that one. This one I don't really feel like
Yeah,
I
I
need
don't-
to see.
I mean, Snow White I watched, but it's not like, I gotta watch the new live action Snow White.
I know, that's what I mean. Like all these Disney remake live action movies are always like terrible. There was like maybe one that was good. I can't even think of it. But
Yeah,
I just don't know what they're thinking. Nobody asked for live actions, but we got it anyway.
what was a good
I
live?
think
What was good?
unfortunately, I don't know.
Was there?
I mean, the ones I've seen aren't like bad. Like I saw the Little Mermaid one, and I was like, "Yeah, this is a decent movie."
I
But it's like
haven't
nothing
seen
I would rush to see. Like it's just things that my girlfriend drags me to see, and they're fine. you know.
Yeah,
I
don't
really
know.
think the only one that I liked was Maleficent. I mean, of course, Angelina Jolie was the focal point of the movie.
all right. And it's a
But-
different story too. It's
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a different story. It was kind of breath of fresh air.
yeah. So that's even that's like a little. That's at least interesting. It's like a different story instead of I don't know, just the same regurgitated story.
Mhm.
It's just like, oh, it's the same movie but live action. I don't know. I'm not interested in that. It's like, all right, show me
Yeah.
something different. I
They
don't
made
care.
that Lion King one. That's like a prequel.
Oh yeah,
Mufasa.
Mufasa.
Yeah.
I had an aunt see it. She said it was pretty good,
Yeah.
but
Just
I
not.
don't plan on watching it. I
Yeah.
didn't. I mean, I love the Lion King. Don't get me wrong, but I don't need a movie about Scar and Mufasa growing up.
Yeah, that
So,
was.
especially
Yeah.
in like that design. If they did an animated one, I'd be all about it. I'd go like,
Yeah,
okay, I'll watch this. But they don't do that anymore. They don't make animated movies anymore. Besides, what's the new one? The Looney Tunes movie. There's a new Looney
Oh
Tunes.
yeah, with Bugs and Porky. I just
Yeah,
saw an ad about that.
yeah. That's like the first animated feature film like in theaters, and like I can like it feels like a decade at this point. And I wanted to go see it like in theaters and actually support it and go like, all right, please make more of this. You know, it almost
Mhm.
just like as like a demand to Hollywood, like please make more animated films. But I couldn't find it in like a theater that was like close to me. You know, so I don't know. I gotta look into it more. But
I don't have too much as far as BS. I did see that the Lanterns, the Green Lantern show that I think is going to Max, it's listed for 8 episodes. And they have a placeholder date of 26, but no official, month and day just yet. But they've got, I think, a very full cast. They have John Stewart cast, and I think they have another Lantern cast. I'd have to go back and find the link I saw again. But I'm excited. I think it's going to be pretty good.
it's live action,
Yeah, this is going to be live action.
so this is going to be part of a new universe, like cinematic universe, or
I want to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure just because, this might have been something like, oh, we had this in the talks before James Gunn got in and, kind of so on and so forth. But even if it is, I just hope that they do the show justice and, make it good. Don't do anything dumb or cringy with trying to make odes to other shows that are in the live action universe. Just make it about the Green Lanterns or Lanterns. I don't know what Lantern cores are going to be in it outside of the Green core, but just, stick to what it's supposed to be about.
no? I get that. Well, it's going to be like a diverse cast. It's not just like Hal Jordan. It's going to be like the
Yeah,
other.
it's they just cast Hal Jordan. I saw the actor's name and I can't remember, but I think he's been in a couple of things that I enjoyed. So I know he's going to put on a good performance. And then I think his name's Aaron Pierre, who's going to be John Stewart. I might be I might be thinking of someone else.
Do they have
And
John
then,
Stewart in it too? Right.
mhm.
That's
I think John
cool.
Stewart's going to be the focal point and Hal's there for support, but I
Uh-huh.
can't, be sure until it comes out.
I'd be into that. I like that idea. I think it would be cool to have those two because they're like the most popular ones. You know.
Yeah, John Stewart, Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner, of course, Kyle Rayner. He's
All
a
right.
very big fan favorite.
And he's in that new one. He's in the new Superman movie. I
Hmm.
love how like out of all of them, the like I wouldn't say the least popular one, but maybe one of the least popular Green Lanterns is in the Superman movie. So like Hal Jordan, I'm not mad at. I'm just
I would have loved to see Kilowog. I'm a Kilowog fan.
he's
Kilowog
fine.
always puts on a good show.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you guys saw it, but the new Final Destination Bloodlines trailer came out. I think not yesterday, but the day before. It looks like it's going to be pretty good. I'm still on the fence because we've had enough Final Destination movies, in my opinion, but I really want to see this one because it's Tony Todd's last appearance before he passed away. So I'm hoping that they, make it a good movie to help, honor his memory and how he helped build up the franchise.
Yeah. I haven't really seen much of those Final Fantasy movies. I think I've seen the first one, but
I think I've only seen the first. I saw the remake that they did, and then I watched 1, 2, and 4. I want to say
yeah.
it's so hard to keep up because it's always something crazy. Oh, you avoided death, but death's not done with you, and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, just get to the gruesome part. Show me somebody getting fucking steamrolled by a cement truck or something. I don't know, but it's always something. It's very grotesque.
Yeah, I just want to see the
like.
crazy death scenes, and that's kind
Yeah.
I think that's about it.
I
It wasn't
got a
too
pretty
much that I really saw. Tony, take the floor, please.
I got a pretty big one. I don't know if you guys saw it. I don't know why they did it, but Marvel had a stream today where they just had a like multi-hour long stream where they were announcing the cast of
Oh yeah, for Doomsday.
Yeah. And it was like all original X-Men actors, and they had Kelsey Grammer, who Kelsey Grammer was in X-Men, I think.
Yeah, he
right?
played Beast.
Yeah.
He's going to be Beast.
Yeah. And I saw Channing Tatum, which is probably Gambit again.
That's cool.
I liked him as Gambit.
Yeah,
Some people didn't, but I thought he did pretty good.
So it seems to be like the names you'd expect from Marvel, like Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd. Isn't Chris Hemsworth in it too?
Yeah, and I think Chris Evans too will probably be Human Torch, right? Like another Human Torch. I thought they said Chris Evans. They wouldn't bring him back as
I don't know. I could see them doing that, to be honest.
They're
struggling for money at this point.
Yeah, they're like, we need anybody. Please come back. They haven't Robert Downey Jr. be Doctor Doom, so they're probably going to have him play. Who's another big one? He's going to play Scorpion.
He's going to be a third character in the universe.
Scorpion.
You don't think that they would have him back as either Captain or America or Human Torch rather than give him a third person?
That would be stupid if he came as.
I don't see them doing him for Cap. Maybe Human Torch again, but we've also got the new Fantastic Four trailer coming.
If
the trailer's out, but the new movie's coming is what I meant.
If RDJ is going to be Doctor Doom, then he could be anybody at this point. He could be. Yeah. He'd be Stan Lee.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to do it.
I don't know.
Oh, I actually have another one now that you mentioned Stan Lee. You see, there's this documentary floating around about Stan Lee's like later years, about how he was manipulated and stuff.
But I heard about like his daughter was a big manipulator, and he was like degrading mentally, and his daughter. I heard his daughter's a big piece of shit. That's what I heard.
Yeah,
I didn't know Stan Lee had kids.
There's this documentary that's coming out now that's supposed to be about how sad his later years were because he was manipulated. It's like, oh, just sign a few more autographs. But the guy that directed it is supposed to be like his best friend and like his carer, and he recorded it and then held on to the footage and waited till after he died. And it's like, why are you doing this now instead of like using this footage to like expose it when it's happening and help him?
Yeah,
I don't know. I saw that was happening, and I saw some of this info, and I was like, this seems pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, and like I feel like that shouldn't be even really. Not that like it shouldn't be discussed, but at the same time, I feel like we should focus on Stan Lee's legacy and like as an artist instead of like hyper focus on like his
life.
Yeah, well, his like death basically, like his last few years. It's like okay.
Because I agree with Tony. It's like, if you have this, why not use it in the moment? Or even if you want to wait a little bit after his death to do it, you should have done it then. Because how long has Stan Lee been gone now? 3-4 years?
Yeah, I think so.
It's been a little while. So it's, the wound's closed and now you're about to rip it back open again.
Yeah.
And you're also about to potentially make, Marvel Disney your worst enemy. So I feel like I'm with Josh. I feel like there's more to it than what's at the face value. I don't know. I think there's something else underneath all that that's probably going to be exposed.
I would definitely agree, but I heard his daughter sucks. That's all
Yeah.
I kind of wanted had to say about it. It is, it's just like it's a wound that's gonna be like salt's gonna be poured all over it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's about to be a big salt world too.
Like,
I mean, everybody knows Stan Lee has influenced countless generations.
Yeah.
The idea man himself would the world would be a very different place without him.
that's true, and like since Stan Lee, what like big Marvel characters kind of came out of like that they made? Like I guess Deadpool. That wasn't like a Stan Lee creation, I don't know. I can't really think of too many.
Yeah, and Deadpool's like
Yeah.
a parody of the normal superhero.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's no traditional.
Well, I don't think he made Wolverine either, but that was like his era too, like when that was coming out. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how that goes. I'm definitely gonna have to watch that because I really just feel like there's gonna be some just groundbreaking dirt that gets brought to light, and it's just gonna flip everything we've thought about Stan Lee or his legacy on his head. But that's just me. I'm just rambling. That's just very thought provoking. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah. No, that's all the BS I have. Do you have more, Tony?
There's I didn't know the Daredevil show started. Is anyone watching it?
Oh, yeah, I did. I saw a trailer for it.
I haven't watched
seen
it. I want to watch it, but I've got too many things I'm watching and catching up on already, and I can't afford to add another thing to my list.
I feel that right now.
Yeah, I'm the
Because
same
I
way.
still haven't finished the last season of Invincible. I got to do that.
Oh, I gotta do that. That's a big one.
Yeah, 'cause I've been avoiding spoilers, and now it's like, okay, I just need to fucking watch it.
Gosh, you gotta watch Invincible.
What is? I heard of the name. I don't know anything about it.
It's I don't even know how to describe it.
It's hard to describe. It's a very different kind of superhero show. That's the best way I can describe it.
It's not even like it's not even like a parody. Like it kind of pokes a little bit of fun, but like it's different.
Oh, this guy's in the Omni Man. He's in this.
Omni-Man,
That's where he's from.
this,
Omni-Man's from this.
Oh, I always thought Omni Man was like his own show. I didn't. Oh, okay. Now I have context. I'll check it out.
It's written
Yeah,
by
it's a good show.
It looks pretty cool.
It's the Walking Dead guy, right? Kirkman, I think.
I think so. I'm terrible putting names and characters together. I just know, this person does a character I like. I just know them based on this character. I'm the worst.
Yeah, it looks like it's walking, or he's done this and Walking Dead and Marvel Zombies and a ton of spinoffs. That's kind of about it. But both of those are bangers, so.
Oh, man.
Very nice.
The only Marvel Zombies I read was Marvel Zombies meets Army of Darkness, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
I was in the, like not a thrift store, but like a hobby store, and I saw that they had a Marvel Zombies board game, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool! I didn't know they had that."
That's kind of neat. I wonder what the rules are.
I was gonna look it up, go and get it, but somebody literally picked up the last one to buy it. I was like, "Oh, I got it late." Thanks.
Was it brand new or was it like a used?
Yeah, it still had the plastic and everything on it. It was
that's
brand
cool.
spanking new.
Huh. That's cool.
I'm trying. I feel like there's another piece of BS that was important that I'm forgetting about.
That's all I really had. I'm sure there's something else.
I know that I'll bring it up next time.
Well, there's the we already talked about Fantastic Four last time, right? I think we did.
Yeah, we talked about Fantastic Four last time.
There's a new Jurassic Park too that's coming out.
What the hell? How am I missing all this stuff?
Scarlett Johansson. I guess she's a producer and she's starring in it. I don't know. It looks terrible. Those movies, ever since the second Jurassic World, I completely lost faith in the whole Jurassic Park franchise.
I was with you. I sat next to you, and I lost faith. At the same time.
That movie, oh man, that movie, fucking is so painful. I don't know.
Oh
I almost
yeah,
want to make a review about that movie because I hate it so much.
I like the first one so much, and then the second one was like, let's just go mad scientist again.
Yeah,
Why?
it's just it just insulted my intelligence. That movie insulted me. I did
The
not.
third one was. I only liked the third one because I forget his name.
The
No,
cast.
BD Wong. That's his name. He's the.
Oh yeah.
He from Law and Order Special Victims. I'm a huge fan of him. Whenever I know he's in something, he's gonna do a good job for a minor role.
The third one was kind of fun because it had the OG cast at least. So it's like, okay, I could kind of get into this,
Man,
but that's
Jeff Goldblum, he still got it. I really wanted to hear him say, "Life will find a way.
Yeah,
I'll find a way out of my sight because we're trying to escape."
They should make it where he meets himself from The Fly, and he's trying to make a new dinosaur fly hybrid. That should be the sequel. All right. Wait, what?
No, it's not worth it.
I was gonna say, all right. That's enough of BSBS. Let's move on now. So we are going to be discussing Life of Pi and Life After Pi, and I think we're going to start with we're going to go in reverse. We're going to Uno reverse this and talk about the movie, the feature first, and then Life After Pi.
Smart, very smart.
So Tony, since you've seen the whole movie, hopefully, would you like to discuss Life of Pi?
This felt like a long movie, but I feel like not a lot happened in the long movie, so my description is going to be brief.
That's okay.
So, his name is Picious, I think. So it's like an autobiographical. Well, no, it's not autobiographical. It kind of is. He Picious, who goes by Pi, is living in Canada, correct? I believe, yeah, Canada. And he's visited by a man who's writing his story. I don't remember exactly why he's writing his story, or he was informed. Someone told him that he had a great story to tell, or something along that nature. Exactly. It's a reporter, and the man goes and asks his life story. Basically, I think there was some other framing, but Picious describes his family living in French, the French quarters of India, and I think they came from like pretty good money. Like it seemed like they had like a nice big zoo, like they owned a bunch of animals, and for some reason I didn't quite catch this, but he describes his life. He describes being turned to God, which was a theme of the movie, which wasn't a theme of the movie for most of the movie, and then it became a theme of the movie by the end. Turned to God, and then basically he's introduced to this tiger. Right? Yeah, tiger, not lion. I always confuse him. I don't know why. Named Robert Parker. He kind of gives
Richard Parker.
He gives the story that the original owner of the tiger's name was Richard Parker, and the documentation got messed up or something. Yeah. So now the tiger's name is Richard Parker. Yeah. And he gets. I think it's important that he gets reprimanded for trying to approach the tiger as a child, and then eventually, all of the animals are transported along with him on this huge ship to I don't know where the original destination was. I think it was Canada, right?
I know it was North America.
It was somewhere
in North America. In the middle of the night, the ship is sinking, and then he finds himself on a ship with a hyena, a monkey, Richard Parker, and there was another animal. I think I'm forgetting. The zebra,
and an orangutan.
Yeah, the
orangutan. Yeah, and then everyone eventually starts killing each other. Not pie. The hyena just starts shit and just starts eating everyone, and then Richard Parker eats the hyena, and then Richard Parker and Pie befriend each other. Richard Parker and Pie, they form a kind of, what's the word? Am I rambling?
No, I love this.
No, you're fine, Tony.
I guess a bond.
I don't know what the word is. It's like a relationship. Like it's a biology term, like symbiotic relationship, where they realize that they kind of survive better together. They're kind of, almost like they're blessed by God every time that Pie is like in a situation where the tiger can like eat him, like. Fucking fish are miraculously launched on the ship by hundreds, so it's like the tiger doesn't have to eat the kid anymore; it can just eat all the fish. And then so eventually they make it to Mexico, and then he survives, and the story is ended, and Pie tells a different story, a much darker story. And it's left to the viewer or the listener who they believe, which story they believe, and he kind of describes his faith in a way that, like, if you believe the nicer story, like the same shit happened, but it's like following God, like the same shit's gonna happen, but you have something to actually hope for, and it's not as dark, and that's it.
Yeah,
that was it perfectly.
I love that description. Thank you, Tony. One thing I want to add is like he was like studying all different kinds of religions at the same time.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Like Christianity, Buddhism. What was I think it was like Hindu,
Muslim, Islam.
Yeah. So like he's like reading all these texts at the same time, and he's like kind of combining. He's like a believer in all faiths, which is like pretty interesting. I like the idea of that, at least like being read on like all religions. I think it makes sense, but like his parents did not like that at all.
Yeah.
No, that was I thought that was very kind of crazy.
I think
see that though, as like an idealistic child, like wanting to.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a good thing to know other religions. I wouldn't say like believe it as you will kind of thing, but I think it's good to know what other cultures and people believe in. So I do agree with like at least getting behind that and like studying up on like what people kind of believe in, why. I think that's pretty interesting. And the darker version of the story is that
cannibals.
They're humans instead of animals, and it was like the cook, his mom, his mom, and the kid.
One of his brothers, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, it wasn't his brother. It was the kid. It was like someone he like interacted with earlier.
Yeah, I thought it was one of his brothers. You're right. It was another kid. I don't know why I thought it was a brother.
Yeah, and instead, like the cook killed his mom, and then it just ends up like Pie ended up killing the cook at the end of it. And they're eating the first one, the kid. They were like eating him to survive in the beginning, I guess. And then apparently Pie inflected like his mannerisms into like Richard Parker, like he was like kind of one and the same. But when he tells a story, he's like, all right, which one do you like? Which one do you believe? Which one do you want to believe? The one with the tiger or the one with the people? And the one that with the tiger is definitely more grandiose and magnificent. And then, I don't know. I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think is the truth?
If you were to ask me, in all seriousness, I do think it's the version where the animals are people.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, the story with animals isn't possible, but, you go through something that traumatic. You want to have, I'm not going to say you want to have, let me not start like that. I believe there's a certain level of disassociation that your mind puts up so you can, essentially do what you have to survive. If you get what I mean.
No, I do know what you're saying.
Because it's, we all know the horror survival stories of, we were trapped in a blizzard for, X amount of days, and it was a bad plane crash and we had to eat the other survivors to survive. Or, my buddy, he was attacked by an animal and he wasn't going to make it and my leg was broken, so I had to eat him so I could, be rescued and stuff like that. And I do think that is a different way to tell a story, about survival. I don't think that it's one over the other, but how I interpret it, I do definitely think, especially with how the mannerisms of some of the animals are, because, once people get deranged enough, they just go, completely feral, and the base just instincts kick in. Like, okay, it's me or you. I'm choosing me. So I'm sorry, but you have to die so I can live.
I would definitely agree with that sentiment. Like, there are occasions in real life where people are deserted or it's like stuck in an island or wherever their plane crashes and they have to do whatever it takes to survive. Um, it's just kind of what kicks into gear with your brain is just try to live.
Yeah.
And I think that you're probably right with the people that it is like the cook and everything, but at the same time his perception, like how he perceived all the events, it was so real to him, like it didn't even really matter, like how he saw it. Like there was a tiger there's a orangutan there's a zebra there, and a hyena. And I think no matter what you explain to him or his mind at that moment, like that was completely real. Like there's no changing that in his mind eye, that those animals were not there. But in all reality, more likely, that it was just people. Um, but at the same time, like your mind hallucinates when you're like, dehydrated, lack of sleep, your mind's going to drift off. And plus, like, he has that, like, God, not complex, but like, he's like very, like, read up on all these religions. So that's going to kind of like play a part in like how grandiose all these events are.
Yeah. Because, everything as far as like, the fish jumping in the boat, that's, anybody will label that as, oh, that's just good fortune. But, somebody who's on the last threads of their rope insanity is like, oh, this is, a miracle from this spiritual deity. And, they're trying to show me that, I just have to keep holding on and I got to survive a little bit longer. And I think that was a very interesting thing, especially considering, he practiced, well, not I'm going to say practiced, but he was learning about several different religions, at different times and everything.
Yeah.
And so I do see how that would play into the psychosis of the situation he was in. Because, after a certain point, it's like everybody says, I can't do anymore. I have to put it in the man above, or I just have to let God, show me the way through this. Which, especially, you're trapped on a boat, no food, there's plenty of water, but you can't drink it because the salt water is going to dehydrate you. Right. And then like how he killed the turtle and drank its blood because he had the survivor manual that was like, oh, you can drink sea turtle blood because it's filtered, or there's no salt in it or whatever the heck it was. I can't remember. It was a very quick scene. I didn't really like watching that one. That was just me. But it's definitely, even like when he got to the living island and how he had found, like, oh, there's plenty of food here during the day, like everything's nice and safe. But at night, the island came to life, and the fresh water turned acidic, and it was gonna kill him. And how the plants had bone fragments, teeth, and other things of people, because that's obviously a big hallucination. There's no way that any of that could be possible. But still, it's like you said, it's in his mind of, all right, I don't know what to do. So it's a mirage. There we go. It was all like a mirage in his mind almost of, all right, I've got a momentary reprieve. I can put my guard down and I can just take that one deep sigh to just relax. And then, 2 seconds later, everything turns up and it's like, okay, I'm in more danger here than when I was on this boat with this Bengal tiger who easily could have killed me at any point it chose.
Tony, what do you think? What do you think is the correct answer?
No, I think it's probably fair interpretation to say it was the human story, because he tells this very detailed story of the tiger and the animals, but like when the insurance adjusters are asking him like, oh, what's the real story, like he turns on a dime and spits out the human story like immediately, like after going through all that trauma.
Yeah,
It's
there's
like,
no
how could he come up with some other fake story? Like, why would he do that? I'm sure, yeah, in his mind, he probably, like, as you guys touched on, probably mentally felt like, oh, I am Richard Parker. This is how I'm going to cope with it in this situation. And I think it's also important to note that, like, it was brought up a lot that him and his family were vegetarian, and we're talking about him possibly cannibalizing people that were on the boat with him. So that adds to the moral dilemma, I'm sure, to a huge extent. I think that wouldn't have been mentioned if it wasn't important. And then I also did a little bit of research because I was curious, not like research, but like other people's interpretations. A lot of people like mentioned how that island was symbolic of like the island is the symbolic of the cannibalism, because it's an island that like eats people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like someone else even said that the island is like one of the dead bodies because the meerkats look like maggots, and then the pools turned acidic, so it's like the blood curdle like becoming uneatable or like unsustainable, and then like he's like, okay, I have to leave. I don't know. I think no matter how you
that's
look
a
at
fair
it,
thing to say.
I think that makes sense too, because like when you're in that situation, you think you have that salvation, like, oh, here's a meal, we're gonna live, but it's only for that moment. It's not gonna like sustain you for the rest of time, or the rest time you're on the boat or what have you. And then with the island, they're like kind of stuck there. It keeps feeding them, but like the longer they stay there, the longer they're just going to be just in that situation, like progressing, getting kind of stuck in that cycle,
And I think it was important when they landed. Richard Parker just left immediately, and it was like he was upset because it was unceremonious. And I think that like is his survival instinct of doing what he needs to do. And it's like once he's like at civilization, it's like he doesn't need to cannibalize or do all this.
He doesn't need to be in a fight or flight response.
Yeah.
And I think the island, even, because this was a book first, and even in the book, the island is described definitely in a very cannibalistic manner, because, it's like you said, with the flowers having, the body parts of people, and the meerkats being human in a manner, so to speak. There's plenty of documentaries about meerkats. Why would a meerkat have all these human-like tendencies? That just doesn't make sense. So it was it definitely does bring the question of, how much was just in his mind versus how much his mind forced him to forget. Because, with any traumatic experience like that, there's like, it's like we all know there's things you're going to be, just morally divided about doing. Like, oh, I'm in a freezing cold situation and my friend's dead and he's got this, heavy winter jacket. Do I just freeze without defiling, my close friend's corpse? Or do I, take what he has so that I might have a chance?
Yeah, so he could sustain me,
Mm-hmm. And I think that also plays into the spiritualness that Pi was exploring into, and that the where they were trying to convey of yes, at a certain point, human nature is gonna just be human nature. That's just gonna be it. Even when you have all the miracles land in your lap, you've got food that's plentiful, you've got water that's drinkable, and you have a shelter that protects you from the sun, so you're not sunburnt and you're not being just bombarded with all this harsh environment. After a certain point, it's like, okay, I've got everything I need to meet my basic needs. What's the next step after? If that makes sense, what I'm getting into. Because obviously he could have, if I'm not going to say if, but how Richard Parker, the tiger, was there, and it was just very docile. It didn't try to attack him multiple times. It just kind of stayed on its side and he stayed on his side. That's not how nature works, generally speaking. Of course, there are rare exceptions where something just happens out of just sheer coincidence.
Maybe I just kind of, going off what you said, I just kind of thought of this. Maybe in the beginning when he's like kind of feuding with Richard Parker and trying to stay away, that's him neglecting the survival instinct and trying to avoid doing what he needs to do to survive.
Yeah, like in the
Yeah,
beginning,
that-
when the boat first sinks in the rainstorm. You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's like keeping his distance and Richard Parker is like still a threat. Like he still sees his survival instinct as a threat
Right.
and doesn't want to become that.
Yeah, because the Richard Parker, he's the first animal you see. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure. Like,
Yeah, because you see him even when Pi's a young child at
well,
their
yeah,
family zoo.
that and like when the boat's sinking, he's like swimming towards the boat and like he's like pushing him away. He's like, "No, go away."
Mhm.
The lifeboat, and then it seems like he's almost like repelling his instinct at that point. He still wanted to be a human, and he's like still mourning over the ship and his family and his zoo being lost down the ocean. And then like after that, you don't see it. You don't see him. Um, you don't see the tiger until the hyena like comes out. Until the hyena kills the zebra, and then Richard Parker comes out. I'm pretty sure.
I
Right?
think that's how it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like in that moment, like the tiger came out when it was like a life or death situation, like someone got murdered, and then he had to come, and then the tiger came out. Like it was like almost like he was suppressing that tiger until that moment.
Yeah, and I just, I'm gonna piggyback off what Josh just said. I really liked the representation that Richard Parker had, as his survival, not just necessarily his survival instincts, but the instinct to see something through to the end.
Yeah.
Because obviously in the beginning, like you said, he was shooing the tiger away. He was trying to retain his sanity, his humanity. He was trying to still be the person he had grown up being. But then as things continued devolving and the situation worsened and almost at several points was bleak enough where he thought he was going to die, Richard Parker was docile. He wasn't there. He didn't put up a fight. Richard Parker did kind of shoo and scare him off, so he wouldn't, I guess, in a sense, fully humanize himself. But it's, at every turn when he had to make a tough decision, Richard Parker was always, not necessarily next to him, but he was always there in the
Yeah, he
background
was with him.
for there's what am I trying to as a not an allegory. Oh, what is that word? But he was just basically there to just represent, okay, it's do or die. What do you want to do?
Like a metaphor, you mean?
Yeah, like a metaphor. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
He's like a metaphor for he's a metaphor to show Pi, sometimes even doing the hard thing is the right thing. And
Yeah.
it's a decision's a decision, and good or bad, you just have to live with it. Oh man. There's just so much to unpack in the movie.
Yeah, that's kind of what makes it like a good. That was one of the reasons why I picked it for the podcast. So it's such a good talking point film. But the reason I watched this recently was I was my girlfriend and I ended up going to the Life of Pi, Broadway show, but it was at Proctor's in Schenectady, which is so
Nice.
they had a tiger puppet, and I'm like, oh shit, we gotta watch this, we gotta see this play. But then before the play, I'm like, oh, we gotta watch the movie. So that's kind of what happened. That's kind of what made me want to watch it. And then the play is very accurate to the movie, and like how they make the tiger move, it's very realistic. It was really cool. It was actually pretty gruesome. Like when the zebra died, like they're pulling like cloth, like red cloth out of its body with the tiger puppet, and I was like, holy shit. Yeah, I mean like to the mind's eye, it's just like, you're like kind of so within the story. It just looks like so bloody. But yeah, it was pretty cool, and like those moments, and just like how the animals interacted and move, and like they showed more in the play, like Pi's like hallucinations. Like it was almost like there's a time where the tiger was talking to him, and then there was another moment where it was like interchanging with the hyena and the cook. Like it was like they're kind of like showing both of them at the same time, like kind of like as reflections of each other. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then I was watching, I just got the Blu-ray for The Life of Pi, and I was watching the deleted scenes, and they had a lot of those scenes that was in the play with his hallucinations kind of in the movie itself. So like I feel like if they put those scenes in, it would have just solidified like, yeah, he's hallucinating it. He's kind of going crazy. But I'm kind of glad they didn't have those scenes in it. But it's a nice piece of the pie, as you will, to watch it. Like, and then it kind of like solidifies that, yeah, these are more human than you would think.
I also think it was very unique how, of course, as we're watching the story, we think it's animals.
Yeah.
Well, it's up to your interpretation. Let me not say we think it's animals, but based on what's presented, the evidence leads you to think, oh, a couple of animals did manage to survive. And then, like how he's talking to the insurance adjusters and the reporters and everything. And they ask, okay, what's the real story? And he says, just replace the animals with these people. I think it was a very unique way for him to associate the people that were there as animals. Because especially with, the cook being the hyena and his mom being the zebra. And there was, I can't remember who the other person was that was in the boat as well. But
I think his mom was supposed to be the orangutan. And then and then the sailor was the zebra because he broke his leg or something when he landed in the boat, kind of situation. Like the zebra was broken.
Because like a zebra, like a horse, you break your leg, you gotta kill them because they can't do anything else.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's just an interesting quirk. Obviously that comes from being in a family that owns a zoo and being around all these exotic animals. So you're gonna find things like, oh, this animal acts a lot like my mom. They're very kind, very loving, very still powerful and as a creature, but at the end of it, Pi was still by himself with the Bengal tiger, which represented his need to survive and his drive to want to survive. And the fact that, he says, whatever story you believe is the right story, I like how it leaves the interpretation up to, the viewer or reader, because this is also a book. So you can come to your own conclusions and make your own final thoughts. But I do think that it's more so that this was involving people. Because, yes, a story like this with animals, of course, it's very heartbreaking and it's very just torturous on the soul. But, you flip the other side of the coin, like, oh, this is people end of their rope trying to just make a situation last as long as possible. Then it has that element of, I don't know if I was in that situation, I'd be able to handle it as well, or I would be able to live with myself doing the same things. Because it's always a thing they say, once you kill once, it's already inside you. You could do it again. Even in a survival situation, it's a means to an end.
Yeah, I would agree. The only thing I'd like to add is I do love like the depictions of how they do each animal and how lifelike they look. And
Yes, that was something else I was going to get into.
the tiger looks real.
Yeah.
That's the best CGI tiger I've ever seen.
It's
Best CGI cat I have ever seen.
Yeah, like from the water all the way to the storms, everything. I was like, man, we really had great CGI before like everything got crazy in like 2015, 16.
Yeah.
Everything was just looked real cheap and gaudy.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Like
they definitely took their time with this movie.
I remember hearing that this won best visual effects, and I think it might have been like a 30-second clip somewhere, and I was like, man, that looks, it's hyper realistic. I felt like I could go out and like touch the water, or I could go out and, shake hands with the orangutan.
Right. No, exactly.
Everything that they did for this, of course, this is going to lead into the next thing, so I'm not going to speak too much on the visual effects because that's true. Like I said, that's going to play a big part in it later. But they knew what they wanted to portray with this movie, and they, in my opinion, they executed it beyond what could be expected of a book to movie adaptation.
Yeah, I would agree too. And it just like makes me think like, oh shit, like what would I do in this situation? Like take the people out of it, like me and all these animals. Like, oh fuck. Like I felt really bad when that orangutan died because that like if you're just looking at it at an animal's perspective, like that was the most useful one because that was the most like a human, it had appendages that could do things, it was a little bit more intelligent than the other animals. It just makes me think like, oh, what the fuck? Like, what animal would I keep on board? Which one would I, befriend? Which one
would I have to eat?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give my final thoughts and review because I know I'm gonna have a lot to say for the next part for the short. This is. So for context, I was watching the movie, but they were doing a network upgrade on my Wi-Fi, so it just cut out. So I couldn't finish watching it. But I listened to the audiobook to keep my memory fresh.
How far did you get? By the way?
I got about 45, kind of an hour into it. So it wasn't too much more I had to, recap on. Even years later, after reading the book first, watching a significant portion of the movie, this is still a fantastic piece of media. This is easily, a 9 out of 10. I mean, of course, I'm leaning more toward a 10, but a second viewing would obviously bump that up easily. The visual effects, the story that was being told, how the interpretation is entirely up to you and what you want to believe in to help you make sense of a situation like that. Even down to how Pi led his own he mentally helped himself keep fighting to survive and keep pushing to just hold out another day, and then they finally made that another day when they landed in Mexico. And I think that was, a very, of course, there's other heartwarming and touching stories that are very similar to this, but seeing it in the aspect of the people are being described as animals definitely gives you that sense of this is what it would really be like in a life or death situation. And there's no right or wrong answer in what to do.
Yeah, I would agree. Tony, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd probably give this like a 9 or a 10. It's kind of, I don't know, it surprised me. I don't know why I never watched this movie growing up. I think I just didn't watch like the big movies coming out like in the 2010s for some reason. I don't know. This was crazy. It was a lot better than I expected. I didn't think that there would be this like whole other interpretation. I think I just saw the movie and it was like lion on a boat with a kid or a tiger on a boat with a kid. And there's so much more than like I judged it by its cover, and there was so much more to it, and I'm a little disappointed in myself. Very good, funny. It's an Ang Lee movie because there's small little moments that are like really like not that I don't know. There was like a wipe
Yeah.
where it just shows his face, and they wiped it to like in the boat from overhead or something.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, that's like straight out of Incredible Hulk.
That's pretty funny.
I don't know why. It
definitely
just felt like it
that.
was some little comic book type things.
That's true.
But yeah, great effects, crazy effects. I like some of the videos that they showed. They are like making the effects. They showed a real tiger, and then they showed CGI, and it's like
I was gonna get into that. Yeah,
I couldn't. You can't tell. Like I genuinely like watching the movie. It's like I don't know if they used a real tiger or not. And,
Yeah.
and if
Well,
they did,
like
then-
obviously I know that it's CGI, but how real it is?
yeah.
Oh, you couldn't tell me that they did not damn near perfect that.
Yeah. Well, I know there are shots where it is a real tiger, at least like for it, like individually, like on the screen, not with like the actor and the tiger.
Yeah.
But I know they did use a real tiger, at least in some specific portions. But I heard they almost killed that tiger too. Like on the raft that it was in, it was like in a pool, and then there was like electrical current that was going through, like a cable that snapped. Electrical current that was going through the water. They're like, oh man, please, like, don't have this tiger jump in the water at this moment. But luckily it didn't. They didn't kill the tiger, but they were very close.
That's crazy. It's come to think of it, I don't think I saw that no animals were harmed in the making.
Oh yeah, they didn't say that, did they?
Yeah. No, I'll have to find that article. I'll put it in this description. If you want to look more into that. Yeah, I would agree with you guys. I definitely give this movie a 9. I am kind of leaning towards a 10, but like, this is only my second view, and the first time I saw it was I don't know, a year or two after it came out. It was just like on television. I was at my friend's house, and I was definitely like super stoned, and I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck is this movie?" But when
there's a talking tiger, what?
But when we were watching it, we just saw. I didn't see any of the beginning. I just saw the boat sink, and he was with the tiger. So I missed like all the context in the beginning. But I thought it was pretty cool how that kind of, it just felt like the end of Titanic and the beginning of a movie. But yeah, no, I did like so this was my first time watching it with all the context of like them having a zoo and why these animals would even be on the boat. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, I definitely recommend this movie. I definitely highly recommend it. And like Tony was saying, I was going to get into that too, with the tiger and the CGI, like the real life footage versus the CGI. It looks like you can't even really tell.
It's almost like a 1-for-1 translation.
Yeah, it looked amazing. It looks amazing. So we're going to move on to Life After Pi, to our short. Jerry, I would like you to take over for this one.
So we watched a a 30-minute documentary, Life After Pi, about what was it? What's the name of the studio? Hughes and Sounds,
Oh,
or
it's like R&H or something.
yeah, it's something like that. Great studio, very great studio. Very sad what happened to them, but essentially, what Life After Pi was showing is the oh goodness. Try not to get emotional because it made me feel so upset and just sickened by what happened and what's still continuing to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's getting
The
any better.
the studio who made Life of Pi filed for bankruptcy 11 days after, they finished the movie. And the whole time it's everyone who had a piece of the movie that they worked on explaining we had these deadlines, we had no money, we had to outsource for money, we had to essentially run around with like a chicken with our head cut off to find money to finish this project and pay our staff, and it was just not possible. And they showed, just how difficult and hard everything was trying to get up to that point, especially with the layoffs and everyone who if you've ever done any video editing or even just like minor edits for photos or videos that's not, oh, let me just go in for an hour and make a quick edit and be done. That's impossible. Even if you are a master of your craft, that's not feasible, especially if it's something that you really want to look good and you're putting all of your passion into it. And during the documentary, they were explaining how the company still exists. They're still working on projects and things are still kind of hopeful, but it showed the underside how visual effects isn't a secured job. It's on a case by case basis. And even within that, anything can happen overnight to where you're just forced to just make a life changing decision, and it's not for the better. And this really just hit a soft spot in my heart because I'm a big animation fan. Cartoons, anime, 2D, 3D, CGI. I like it all. Some people don't, I do. And, just hearing the story of what they went through and seeing, even how much it still hurt them to talk about, it definitely was one of those things where I was so hurt and bothered because that is what visual effects artists go through to make a project happen and to make magic happen. 100-hour work week, that is a minimum for some companies. Like, you're not going home until this is done. And it's like people say, it doesn't matter how successful the project is, that money doesn't trickle down the ladder.
No,
What
it
they
really
get
doesn't.
paid is it.
Yeah.
Unless of course you work out a good deal or you have someone who really understands the process and the due diligence that of what you're doing. There's never going to be a point where people, I'm not going to say respect visual effects because that's not accurate, but there's never going to be a point where people truly understand what effect artists do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I almost feel like visual effects for like these gigantic $1 million movies, almost like $1 billion movies at this point. Um, they should almost get like top billing because they almost make like 99% of the movie, instead of like
Yes.
showing like the head actor, they should show the studio, who brought you this movie or this film. Like without them, it just looks like
It's a
hot
green
garbage.
screen.
Yeah.
It's literally just that, a green screen, people in motion capture suits or a costume, and a bunch of wires and doohickeys.
And then meanwhile, like these actors are getting like millions of dollars, or like the directors, which like the director is very important. They have to tell the story, but they're not even in the studio or like the room where they're working on the visual effects, and that's like
That's where
90%
that's where
of the
everything
movie.
happens.
Yeah, and like if you can't tell them where you want these characters, because each CGI character is like, a part of your movie. Like, you got to be able to direct your actors, and that's what your actors are, the animators. Like, if you're not in there with them, like, they're not going to know what you want. Like, you're basically missing half the project. You're missing half of
the team.
Yeah, exactly. And like, so what are you directing? Just the actors, and then the other half of it's like, all right, just guess.
Yeah. And that's something that I think people, especially in Hollywood, because Hollywood has been sucking in a lot of their theatrical releases for movies, TV shows, so on and so forth. You don't really understand the process of something until you do it. Like, yes, we've all edited a photo to, upload and be like, oh, I looked really good in this. I want to, just kind of clean up some of the dark spots, lighten up here and there. I want to see these people go into a visual effects team and actually put their hands into the project to know what it's like. Because it's not an easy process, especially if, you're trying to do a very complicated, computer generated scene. Because you have to think, you're not just animating the look, you're animating all the muscles moving. You're animating the, little small fine-tuned details.
Yeah, the action.
You're doing so much more than just putting a character on the screen or putting two people fighting against each other. You're doing so much more into that isn't ever really focused on. It's just, oh, that's a really nice scene. I mean, of course, yes, there's people who appreciate the fine-tuned details like that, but most people just don't care. They see, oh, that was a real badass scene. Did you see the new Batman Ninja? The fucking Joker has 2 fucking samurai swords being shoved in his head. That was fucking crazy. Like, no, you have to animate the shimmer of the swords. You have to get the fluidity of the blood and everything else. That's not a overnight process you can just do. That's weeks on end, because there's different layers and steps you have to do to get there. That's me on my soapbox. I mean, just fly off like that.
No, I'm glad you added that, because that's basically my sentiment as well. Well, I kind of said earlier, without them, you have no movie. So, and like, for that, like, the artist having to move like city to city just because I'm the lowest bidder, that's ridiculous. I mean, like, at this point, you would think they could work from home, at least like doing this animation process. I know, even with what the fuck's that? Toy Story 2.
Well,
when did that come out? Like early 2000s. There was someone working from home. She was sick.
But that was the problem though, is like they could work from home, I'm sure, but like their production company is going everywhere it can to get tax breaks.
Right.
So it's like they're going to Vancouver, because Vancouver, I think it's the same with like video game developers, but I'm sure it's like something similar. But with that, at least, it's something I'm a little knowledgeable on. Like, for some reason, the government will pay like half the person's salary, because they want something to be made there, because they can profit on the taxes and stuff. So like, there's a lot of video game studios in Montreal, because like they can pay someone $100,000, but they only pay like half of that, because the government pays for half of it. So this company is just going back and forth, and you can't. I don't think you can work from home if you're working your company's in Canada. Like, they want you to be like working in Canada
on site.
Right.
Yeah, because you have to be made in Canada. So, and they were just screwing them around and jerking them around and making them go all over the place to benefit.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, Tony. The hoops that you have to go through as an effect artist should be absolutely illegal. There's no reason you should essentially have to be a contracted worker to get a project. Like, yes, I understand there's some legality into things like that. But if I'm saying like, hey, I want to work on this team. Here's my resume. Here's my portfolio. Here's some recent projects I've done. So on and so forth. It shouldn't have to be a bidding war, especially because with how they said there's the 6 major companies. They can throw out any offer and people are going to be chomping at the bits like, okay, if we get this contract, they'll keep bringing us back. Or if we do really good on this one, we can up our game on the next one. So they'll, make us a better offer. And I think that's a very scummy thing to do, because I'm a firm believer in pay people for what they're worth and damn sure pay people for their effort.
I would agree.
Because there's a lot of special effects being done now in every form of media. You can't look at anything without some form of a, visual effect.
I would agree, yeah.
These people are going to school. They're, having multiple sleepless days and nights to get stuff done to meet a deadline. And on top of that, some of them have health conditions that impact, how much they can work as well. So what I really feel is there needs to be a common ground when it comes to how visual effects, not just even teams, but how the visual effects as a entire just work practice should be viewed and respected.
Yeah,
because go ahead, Josh. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. You go ahead. Because
I was just gonna say, because especially with how movies are done now, 99.9 is special effects, and everything else is just a couple of lines and some good camera work.
Yeah, and like you would think, like you were saying before, with these artists going to school and like doing all the, going over all those hurdles, I'm gonna make it as an artist and this and that, and then they finally get to a production studio. They're like, oh, I made it, and then
it's
the
like
company goes out of goes bankrupt. It's like, oh, what do you do at that point? You're completely lost,
Especially like these people that they get paid for 8 hours of work, and I'm sure no one's doing 8 hours. They're doing at least 10, at least 10 a day, and probably more 12 to 14 on bad days. Yeah, 16. Yeah. Like, you don't get paid. They're not getting paid for that, and it's like they want this to do well, so they're doing more.
Yeah, they should definitely give more of their who they're paying off to the special effects team more so than the actors and all that. But that's going to be hard to do too, because to have these big actors and big draw names, you got to put down that paper, So it's like, what do you do?
Yeah, because my personal thought on just visual effects and where it could go in the future, I don't doubt in another 5-10 years they have another big strike and protest saying we want our names to be respected like Quentin Tarantino. We want to be respected like Robert De Niro. We want to be respected, like Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, all these other big name celebrities, all these big name directors, all these big name studios. Because in my opinion, if you don't try to appease the people who you want to work for, eventually we're going to be at a point like we were several years ago where, AI generation was starting to hit a point where it was almost real enough to where you couldn't tell for certain, obviously certain things, because actors were saying, oh, I'm having my likeness used without my permission. What protections do I have? Hey, this person just made me say a bunch of slurs and that wasn't me. I'm very against all of that. How do I, protect myself? Or, God forbid somebody makes some kind of deranged video of someone going on a just genocide, killing, just doing a bunch of unspeakable things. And especially for visual effects, how hard it is already, I think that people need to get out of their ego and say, you know what, you guys are the real hard workers. Let's negotiate a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but like you mentioned AI, like what's going to happen in the future with artificial intelligence? Like,
Yeah,
you feel like they're going to just be making the effects, and then there'll be no studios. like,
I do
like it
think
seems like that's what's it's going to lead up
It's
toward.
already kind of happening. Like
it's
Yeah.
kind of happening.
they
You
had
can.
that.
I know I work with a couple of people who do like graphic art for like a side job here and there. And they'll say like I use AI as a model for
Yeah,
inspiration, and
I
then
do
I
that
just
too.
take that and make my own vision from that.
Right. It just has an outline kind of thing.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
it's like you said, eventually AI is going to get to a point where, well, what do we need visual effects for? We can just run this through I'm trying to think of an AI generator software, Chat GPT. I'll just stick with that because it wrote a script for South Park.
Yeah.
Eventually it's gonna be smart enough to do what we want it to do, and then it's really gonna fuck with people and show, well, if we've got AI making movies, what else can we have AI do? And then it's gonna be that slow integration of replacing, actors, directors. I mean, even editing videos you can do somewhat through an AI, from what I've heard.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I mean that makes
It's
sense.
not like super great, but it's like if you need a couple of things touched up, AI can do some very limited and basic things.
Hmm.
But that's how everything starts. It starts off incredibly small and bad, and then with each time it gets a little bit better.
I would love an AI editor. I hate editing. I don't hate it, but it just takes so much
It
fucking
takes so long, right? It's a
exactly.
long process.
Right.
But
so
that's this short was me on my sandbox because I appreciate animators who do hand drawn. I appreciate people who do, any form of animation. And I just feel that until we get big business out of places that they don't belong, we're just never going to have that point like back years ago when Pirates of the Caribbean and The Curse of the Black Pearl came out. That had, visual effects and CGI, and it looked fantastic.
right.
yep.
And look at us now. We've got AIs with 6 fingers and 47 teeth in someone's mouth. How did we devolve? Where did we go wrong?
Yeah, there's nothing like visual effects wise that really has impressed me recently. Um, like like this movie. I'm like, whoa, this looks real.
I think
Maybe
the,
Avatar.
the only like crazy ones are like the Nolan ones, and is it
Yeah.
like I don't know if it's
Yeah.
is it
The new Avatar movie, I would say that was probably the
yeah.
best time.
Yeah, but that's me personally. I don't feel right rating the life after
Yeah,
Pi.
I'm probably
I
not.
do feel like I do want to say something, but not rate it because that's very subjective.
Right.
I feel that the life after Pi is a big wake up call because I remember on social media back then, I saw people turning their profile icons into just a green square, and that's not something that I knew at the time. I was like, oh, that's weird. Maybe I think I even said this. I was like, well, maybe there's something going on with a bunch of artists, and they're trying to start a protest or a rally for a new movement. And of course, finishing the documentary, it opened my eyes to, and I know some of the horror stories, especially being an anime fan, because their work schedule is, if you think visual effects is bad, being an animator in anime is, it's like being a slave. You have no time off, you're away from your family, and you essentially do what they tell you or you're replaced. And seeing how that is over here, it just reignited a fire in me that we have to make a change and really appreciate all hands in a project. Not the big names, not the up and coming names. We need the big names, like James Heineman or Adam Savage, people who do like practical visual effects. We need them to be respected just as much as Quentin Tarantino or Rob Sterling. You know, everyone should have their due diligence paid to them, and they should also have their accolades given in a proper manner.
Yeah, the only visual effects artists I could think of that like take top billing are like stop motion animators. You know, it's like, oh, this is a Ray Harryhausen movie, or this is a Willis O'Brien movie, or this is a
Mhm.
Henry Selick movie. Because like once there's like an animated creature like that, like that's hands on, it's like, oh, they kind of take over. It's like that's the movie. That's the personality. Is the monster. Tony, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think I'd probably just say like I've been I've I had been somewhat aware of like the strife of uh the sorry I don't know why I can't think of the correct word uh
Pie.
effects artists. That's crazy. That's what we've been talking this entire time. I don't know why the word escaped me. To some extent, but I guess I didn't really realize the full extent, especially like surrounding this movie. Like I've seen all these writer strikes, but I feel like I've never seen like an effect strike to this level. It's very. Uh, I mean, it's crazy to see considering like just how much of these movies are effects now. It's like 90% effects. So yeah, it's definitely. I guess it's. I'm glad you recommended this. It's good to, you know, have this in mind and be aware of this, and really appreciate effects in movies when I watch them, and give people the respect they deserve in the movies that they make. Yeah, I guess that's all I had.
Yeah, I would agree. Um, I don't really have a rating for this movie. I think it's definitely nice to be informed. I knew like they're getting screwed over, like you were saying, Tony, like prior to watching this, but then it's like kind of solidifies it because like
Mhm.
you reach this company reached the highest caliber you can possibly get. You win an Oscar, and they're getting dismembered at that same moment. It's like, okay, if you can reach the point where you're winning an Oscar and your company is still like going bankrupt and like falling apart, like what else
That
can
should
you
say
do?
something about where we are.
Yeah, like what else can you do? Like how do you can't go anything above that. So like why are you falling apart? You know?
Hmm.
Uh,
It's it's a very sad reality that it might not be fixed in our lifetime or the generation after us, but I do think that eventually people are going to be like, well, excuse me. I do feel people are eventually going to say, I don't want this anymore. Give me what we used to have back, in the old form of media where nothing was, or let me have so many visual and special effects that it borders on the line of giving someone an epileptic seizure episode because there's so many just popping colors and just flashing lights and such. I definitely feel that visual effects is gonna be a lost media at a certain point, just because nobody's gonna want to put in the drive or the effort for no. I'm not gonna say payout, but for no respect, because it is a very hard job, and yes, it's rewarding, like you said, Josh, when you see your team get an Oscar for winning best visual effects. But if I'm winning this Oscar but I'm filing chapter 11 bankruptcy, how is that fair? Who is How is this awesome? How is this piece of crap helping me further myself and my team to the next step?
yeah. No, I definitely agree. Um so I think that's all our final thoughts, unless Tony you had something you wanted to add.
Hit us, Tony.
No, I think that's
Hit
it.
us with your best shot.
So okay, well, Tony, you're the next one to speak anyway because you're gonna tell us our picks for the future episode.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of struggling with this. I have two options. I'm gonna let you guys pick one or
Give us a
two.
vote.
One or two.
Two.
Two?
Yeah,
Okay, so I don't have a short for this one.
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
This is the longer one. I'll tell you both of the ideas. The first idea was Doctor Strangelove. I went into this episode thinking
Oh,
Doctor
I always
Strangelove
wanted
would be
to
the
see
one.
that movie. Okay. Damn.
Maybe we'll just do one then, because the other idea was Gangs of New York.
That's a good one too. Well, we already picked two, so let's do it.
Okay, we'll do that. I'll find yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
So
Gangs of
if
New
you
York,
don't
we'll
want to
find
be
a short.
spoiled for Gangs of New York and whatever short Tony's gonna pick,
Watch it before next episode.
yeah, watch it before next episode, especially the short.
Be here, or we're gonna put you in some concrete sneakers.
Yeah, we do these podcasts once a month. We're not really on a specific schedule, but yeah, you'll find us. So I guess we'll close out the episode. Okay, 3, 2, 1. This is Josh from BatYard's Finest. Send you off up and away until next BatYard's Finest episode.
This is Jerry guiding you all with Green Lantern's light,
This is Tony from Star City, I think.
and we're becoming super pals one episode at a time.
All right, bye guys. Thank you.